So when I graduated college, something happened that I did not ever anticipate happening, okay? I graduated, and then I stopped being called by my name by most people, okay? So most of my life, I was just Jonathan. That was my name, okay? And I mean, I had nicknames. We talked about that a little bit last week. And there were even things that I was called in college other than that. So I was a drum major for 2 years. And so people that didn't know me would be like, hey, are you the drum major? You know, and so I was the drum major to some people because they would see you down front in the stands and stuff. And I was also known as the Bible study leader, which was kind of intimidating because, I mean, you're known as the guy who teaches the Bible on campus. And so, like, you got to, like, be good. You know, if you're the Bible study leader and you're doing bad, it's like, hey, why are you drinking, Bible study leader? I don't know. So, as I ran a big Bible study on campus, we had a whole lot of people, and so it just kind of got known as that. So I was called that by people that didn't know me, but everybody that knew me just called me by my name. And then I graduated, and I became a teacher. And when you become a teacher, your first name doesn't matter anymore. Then I was just Mr. Hill, okay? And I was Mr. Hill, and I kind of thought it was weird at first. Like, if people just started calling you Mr. or Mrs., whatever your name is, it would be weird if at first, but you get used to it. In fact, then I kind of started to like it, because, I liked those students. And then I moved here. And again, I was Jonathan for a little while, or Pastor Jonathan, for like 2 months. And then somebody said, hey, PJ. And I was like, that's dumb. No one's going to call me that. And then now we go to camp and you're like chanting, PJ. I'm like, oh, please stop. It's so awkward. Okay, and now I'm PJ everywhere. And the weird thing is people think it's my name now. Like, new people come here and they'll be like, hey, PJ. And I can tell that they have no idea that my name is Jonathan. And it's not like Peter Jonathan. It's not like, you see, it's not initials. It's not AJ, okay, or JC. It's not then PJ. No, it's Jonathan. That's my name. So some of you just now going, oh, Pastor Jonathan, PJ. And that's common. I have a friend named Andrew, Pastor Andrew, and they call him what? PA, right. And I feel sorry for my friend Pastor Peter, though. I mean, I don't even know how he gets, oh gosh, that has to be awful, but poor PP. So you get called by things, especially when you get older, like if you have certain jobs, you'll be called that. So you all probably have somebody in your school that you call coach, right? Coach whatever, that's what you call them, because even if you don't have him as a coach. So my Algebra 2 teacher was Coach Raper. Okay, Coach Raper. And I don't know why I didn't go by Coach R, because Raper is one of the worst last names. He was the girls' volleyball coach, all right? I'm not kidding. And so he should have gone by something else. But, so you used to hearing those things. And when you're growing up, you got to be careful, because you can get caught with a nickname you didn't want. So if you're short, you might get called Shorty. Or if, you're funny, class clown, or I don't know what they call those people anymore. There was a kid, his name was Ryan. And one day, we were in athletics, and he got hit hard and he cried, okay? And you never do anything that rhymes with your name, because from that day on, he was crying Ryan. I'm not kidding. I feel so bad for this. I didn't call him that, but everybody else, who's up crying Ryan? And he never lived that one down. Sometimes we got those, but when you get older, depending on your job, some of you may be called one of these things, like coach or doctor. Like, sometimes you don't even know your doctor's name. You're just like, hey, doctor, right? It's just a thing. You don't have to know it. Or waiter. You don't care what your waiter's name is. It's like, hey, waiter. Okay, and so you're kind of called by what you do. And so last week we started talking about Jesus' nicknames. And we talked about, Emmanuel, which wasn't, the coolest sounding nickname. I mean, I don't know if his friends were ever like, hey, what's up, JC, Jesus Christ? Or I don't know if they, or, since he was God, maybe it was like, what's up, G-Dog? Or Big G, I don't know. I don't know whether, they probably didn't call him anything other than his name. But here are those weird things. They called him Emmanuel, they called him some other things, but what we're going to talk about this week, he was called in the New Testament, in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, just those 4 books, 4 different times, he was, or not 4 different times, 48 different times in those 2 books, he was called teacher. People would just come up to him and say, hey, teacher. And because he was really known for his teaching. He was such a good teacher, that's what people called him. Hey, teacher. And in fact, I wanted to show you one really fun story about him being a teacher that I thought was kind of funny. So he had been teaching, and people started to call him like the Messiah, which was like the Son of God. This was a big deal. They were starting to call him because they'd always been wondering who it was going to be. It was in prophecy in the Old Testament. And so people started calling him that. Well, some people didn't like it that they were calling him the Christ and all that. So this is what happens. He's been doing that. They're calling him that. It says, the Pharisees heard the crowd whispering such things, that he's the Messiah. Then the chief priests and the Pharisees sent the temple guards to arrest him. So basically, they called the police, all right? Hey, police, we need you to go arrest this guy. So they go to arrest him, okay? And then there's some story, and then I'm going to show you what happens when the temple guards come back. Finally, the temple guards went back to the chief priests and the Pharisees, who asked him, why didn't you bring him in? So they went, and they came back without him, and they're like, hello, you had one job, you're police, arrest him. And they didn't do it. Why not? No one ever spoke the way this man does, the guards declared. So they go, they hear him teach, they get saved, and so then they don't go back with him arrested. Like his teaching was so good, it kept the police from arresting him. That's pretty good teaching. So all through the New Testament, if you read it, or especially the Gospels, it'll talk about him being a great teacher. Thousands of people would gather to hear Jesus speak. Like, he would go out in the middle of nowhere, and thousands of people would show up. And he didn't even have, like, Twitter or a website, okay? He couldn't let everybody know it was happening. They just heard, and they just showed up wherever he was to hear him speak because he was that good. In fact, even, like, a lot of people that would claim to be an atheist today, they would say, I don't believe in God, would still say, well, Jesus was a good teacher. They don't believe he was Son of God, but they would say he was a good teacher because his teachings were pretty incredible. And he is still our teacher. And so what we need to know is he came to teach us how to live life. He came to teach us and how to do things better. I mean, you know what a teacher does because you all have one. So, I mean, like when you go into math, the goal is that you come out knowing something that you didn't know. And some of you are like, no, I just failed. That's what I do in math, okay? But you hope that you come out. A good teacher is going to teach you, okay? You're going to learn. And maybe your math teacher isn't good, I don't know, but Jesus is a good teacher. And he wants us to know things. He wants us to teach us how to live. He came to teach you how to live better. He came to teach us how to have a relationship with God. He came to teach us how to treat people, how to have good relationships with people. And so if we can learn what he teaches, we can keep from doing this, learning the hard way. Have your parents ever said that to you? Well, you're just going to have to learn that the hard way, okay? Y'all know what I'm talking about? I had a friend, they're like, if you just do that, it's going to blow up in your face, and it's going to learn the hard way. He literally had it blow up in his face. Let me tell you this. So he was like 28 and somehow had never used a gas grill, okay? And so he bought his own for the first time. He takes it home. He hooks up the propane. Y'all know what a gas grill is? Okay. And so he gets it, and he turns the knobs, and you have the little button that you push, or sometimes you use a lighter if it's an old grill, but you push it, and it like makes a spark, and the gas catches on fire. Okay, this is how a gas grill is. He didn't know. He never done it before, and he just decided, I'll figure it out on my own, which is, by the way, the hard way. And so he turns on all the gas, and then he thinks, well, how long are you supposed to wait before you push the button to light the gas? And the answer is what? Instantly. Okay, but he didn't know. It was like probably 20 or 30 seconds. And so he's just waiting. And finally he pushes it, and it, whoo, like his eyebrows didn't come off but were singed, it was like this huge. He's very lucky he did not like get seriously hurt, like hospital hurt. He learned the hard way, and now he does it instantly, okay? And luckily it wasn't really the hard way, like had to go to the hospital. So you can learn things the hard way if you want to, but I think when it comes to, say, relationships, I would rather not have them blow up in my face if I could do it the easy way. Like I'm married, okay? I could figure out how to be married good by, messing up, getting a divorce, trying again, messing up, getting a divorce. 4 or 5 marriages later, I'd probably have it figured out, and then do it good. That would be the hard way. Or I can find out the right way and do it the easy way. And when it comes to so many areas of your life, if you will listen, Jesus will tell you the easy way, the right way. And you won't have to make those mistakes and learn them the hard way because he wants you to have a good life. He's a good teacher who teaches good things so you can have a good life. He's a good teacher who teaches good things so that you can have a good life. He came to save us, and he came to teach us how to live. to do life better and have a better life. So I want to tell you 3 things about Jesus' teaching that I want you to know, okay? Maybe they'll be helpful for you, maybe they won't, but it'll help you understand how he taught and why he taught, and so we can maybe learn from him. Number 1 is this: Jesus taught with authority. Authority. When he taught, it had authority behind it. He didn't just say things. Whenever he said it, it was authority. So like one time after he got done teaching, okay, this is what people said. When Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed by his teaching. Like, he got done, and they were like, whoa, that was awesome, okay? Maybe it was really funny. Probably not. It's probably this next thing. Because he taught as one who had authority, not as their teachers of the law. Now, if I was to, get on, watch the NBA, and I was to study like LeBron James or Kevin Durant, okay, and watch them really good, okay, take notes, and then read a book, and learn some good basketball strategies, I could probably take you out back and teach you something, okay? But if LeBron or Kevin showed up, right, you would be like, I'm going to listen to them, not little scrawny white dude who can't dribble with his left hand, all right? I mean, seriously, will you listen? Because they have authority on it, okay? They know what they're talking about. I know nothing, okay? I can pretend, I can read, I can study, but I don't know what they know. If you were going to learn how to swim, I could teach you. Michael Phelps would probably be better, okay? So, because you can see they have authority. Jesus has authority on life, okay? When he said something, it was truth. Because this is really weird. The Bible says that he's the Word. Okay, that Jesus is the Word. So when he spoke, it was truth. Whatever he said was true. That's pretty amazing. And no matter what it was, if he said it, it was always true and it would always come. So when he spoke, he had a different kind of authority than other people. Now, if Jesus came next week to speak here, literally, I would be sitting in the back watching, you would all be here, okay? In fact, there would be so many people here, we'd probably have to get AT&T Stadium or something because everybody would want to hear it if Jesus was literally going to come speak. Now, I know this is kind of cliche and kind of preachery, but he really will speak to you in your own room. You really can let him teach you through this. And I know sometimes it's confusing and I don't understand parts of it. I don't understand all of it, okay? But he really will teach you how to live your life if you'll read this, if you'll talk to him, if you'll pray. He really will. And the words that he tells you have authority to change your life. So he taught with authority. Now, he taught like this. He taught practically. Now, a lot of people think, the Bible's just not practical. Yes, it is. Okay? So much of what Jesus said was very practical. Think about this. He said, if you're at odds with somebody, somebody's done wrong to you, this is what he said: go make it right. In fact, he said, before you worship, go make it right. Don't just pretend, okay? He said, now isn't that practical? He said it in a little different wording, okay? But he says if you've made somebody mad, you've done something to upset somebody, go make it right. Now, we've all made somebody mad. We've all upset somebody. It's very practical in what he tells us to do. He says this: don't worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow has enough worries of its own. Isn't that true? How many times have you been worrying about the test tomorrow, the thing that's going to happen tomorrow, the whatever, the tryout, this and that? He says, don't worry about tomorrow. Now, that's practical. That's life that we live. We really do live it. I really like this one. I'm going to show you. I actually put this one on the screen. This is just a simple thing that he said that's extremely practical, and if we did it, would change your life, okay? He said this: let your yes be yes and your no, no. What does that mean? That means when you say something, you mean it. You don't lie. If I say yes, that's yes. If I say I'm coming, I'm coming. If I say I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do that. In fact, some of you have learned this the hard way. You can ruin a relationship the fastest by not doing this. When you lie to your parents, it makes whatever you did 100 times worse, okay? I have had people do stuff that in the youth that was frustrating or that they shouldn't have done. And when they were honest with me, it was cool. We got through it. When they were not, it was a big deal. So one time we were at the fall retreat, and this one girl decided there was this wasp that landed on a window, Emma, and she wanted the wasp dead, okay? And so was it a broom or was it a shoe? Okay, so she grabs a broom. Now, if you had a window and a broom, would you think that you could just hit the window as hard as you could? So she takes this to kill the wasp. I don't even know if the wasp is probably still alive. She just shatters the window at the fall retreat. And so one of our little friends comes over and says, Emma broke the window. I don't remember who it was, but it was one of the girls. And here comes Emma. And she's like, I broke the window. And now, we dealt with it. She had to do some dishes and stuff like that. Okay, I was pretty nice. She was really terrified that I was going to be. Now, if she would have looked at me and said, I didn't do it, that was somebody else. It was that way. Or it lied, and I knew she lied. I can tell you what. Our friendship, I think we're friends, would never be the same. Because this is what I would know. At any time, I can't believe what comes out of her mouth. But she was honest, and we could deal with that. Now, I'm not saying you're honest with your parents, you're not going to have any punishment. You're going to have some punishment if you did something wrong. But it's so much worse. Because one time I had a girl, and she was on the worship team, and she told me that she was sick. And she told her mom that she was coming to youth. And she was really going to a party. See what I'm saying? Now then her mom calls and says, hey, was she there? And I was like, no. She wasn't home? No. Busted. Now, if she would have called and just said, hey, I'm going to a party, I can't make it, I would have been upset. Worship team people know I expect commitment, okay? And she probably, at the very most, she would have been set off for a week, okay? Because I can't be mean to people. I don't know. But when I found out she lied, she was permanently kicked off the team and never allowed back because I never could believe another word that came out of her mouth. Now, you see what this does? This is so real life. If you will listen to the things that he says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. You'll be a kind of person that people want to be around just from this one principle because they know they can trust you. Relationships, friendships are always built on trust. He was so practical in the things that he taught. If you want to know how to be a good or get along with your parents, he'll teach you how to do it. If you want to learn how to have good relationships with the opposite sex, you want to learn how to date better, guess what? The Bible talks a whole lot about how to do that better. If you want to learn how to have better friends, how to get along with people, Jesus is going to teach it to you. And so he taught super practically. And the last thing is this. He taught graphically. Now let me kind of explain what I mean by that. He taught in pictures and he taught in stories. Okay? So let me tell you one of his pictures, okay? So why don't you guys just close your eyes. You're going to imagine something, okay? I don't have a water gun. Some of you are looking to see. No, I really don't have a water gun. You don't have to be afraid. Okay, now I want you to imagine a camel, okay? Let's imagine a camel. Does it have one hump or two? Okay, mine had one. All right. Okay, so you can see this camel. You can feel its fur, right? Okay, you just imagine you're right there touching it. Okay, now I want you to also imagine a tiny needle like that you sew with. Okay? It's in your left hand. In your left hand is a little needle. Okay? Now I want you to take that camel and shove it through the eye of the needle. Okay. All right, now stop. Okay, look at me now. You're going, wait a minute, you can't stick a camel through a needle. Okay? Like you can't even get thread through that. Right. That's like impossible, right? Jesus said, he was talking about how hard it was for a rich person to come to the kingdom of heaven. And instead of saying, it's really, really, really hard, he said it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich person to go into the kingdom of heaven. And you're going, that's impossible. That was the point he was trying to make. Because his very next thing was, even the impossible is possible with God. And by the way, if you live in America, compared to the rest of the world, we're all in that rich category. Because you all are in air conditioning right now. So we're on there, but it's possible with God, but it's impossible by ourselves. That's what he was trying to say, okay? And isn't that amazing? He liked pictures. He did stuff like that. So let's do one more. Okay, here we go. Imagine with me. I want you to picture a really tall tree, okay? You see the tree? Now cut it down. Okay, hit the ground. Now cut off all the branches, okay, all the branches. So all you have left is like a telephone pole, basically, okay? All right? Now take that big pole and stick it in your eye. Okay, you can look at me now. So this is what Jesus said. This is Jesus' example. He says that you're going around and you're looking and finding little specks in somebody else's eye. Like a little speck. While you have a plank in your own eye, okay? That's what he said. So you're like, you're doing that wrong. You need to stop doing that. And here you are, you've got this, okay? You're like doing this other thing that's so bad. You're mad at them for being, I don't know, stealing, and you're all prideful, okay? You got this huge plank in your own eye. And this is how he taught, like with images and things. So, I mean, you can remember those, and they mean something, and they're powerful. So he loved to teach with images and with pictures like that. And then he taught in stories. So he would tell stories to give the example. Instead of just saying it like straight out, which would be kind of boring, he taught in stories a lot. Now, what you need to understand is his stories were in his time. So like there's no iPhones in his stories because they didn't have iPhones, okay? And there's no cars or jets because that he taught in their time, right? So if we were to kind of tell the exact same stories as now, we might say something like this, okay? Maybe you'll recognize this story. So there was a guy who was driving down Wilshire, and he got a flat tire, so he pulls over, and he gets out. While he's fixing his car, another car stops. They all get out. About 5 guys get out. They beat him, take all of his money, his cell phone, his keys, most of his clothes, and then they beat him some more until he's almost dead and leave him on the side of Wilshire, get in their car and drive off. Okay, so here he is. Oh, and by the way, he's right by, he's over here by Cane's because he was about to get some chicken. All right, and so he's there now. He's almost dead on the side. And just so happens, the Pope comes by in his Pope-mobile. All right, and so here comes the Pope-mobile down there, and he sees him and he goes, "But I've got Popey stuff to do," and he's like, "I'm in a huge hurry. Somebody else will take care of this. I know. Okay, somebody else will call the police," and he has to keep going. He can't stop. His security says no. It's too crowded. Okay, so he keeps going. And then this really, really great youth pastor from Burleson, Texas, is driving down in his blue Honda Accord and sees him and goes, "Ooh, I wish I could stop, but I got that class on compassion I'm teaching to my youth leaders, so I got to keep going." And he keeps on going all the way too, and he can't stop. And then pulling out of the drive-thru, just got their box of crispy chicken and wrinkled fries and toast, okay, and sauce, and is driving out, sees the guy on the side. This teenager gets out of the car, runs over, see if the guy's okay. He's not okay. Helps him up, puts him in their car, gives him his chicken that he just bought, and drives him to an emergency room to get some care, asks him if he needs any money. Now, then Jesus said to the audience as he's telling this story, well, similar story, which of those 3 showed compassion and love? Now, you would all know the answer, right? Now, he didn't talk about Wilshire. He talked about a road to Samaria. And instead of a teenager, it was a Samaritan. And instead of a youth pastor, it was a Pharisee. Okay, it was the terminology that they used. But you would all go, that's how you show compassion because of his story. And it's so easy to see what compassion is if you think about that. In fact, I was thinking about how I would say it if it was this youth room, okay? So or maybe not our youth group. Let's just talk about another youth group because we don't want to put any pressure on anybody. So we got a youth group, okay? And a new person comes and they decided they're going to try church one more time. They've been before. It's always yuck and they don't ever want to go back, but they're going to try church one more time. And if it doesn't work for them, they're never going to go back. Okay, so they walk in for their last time to try church. They don't know anybody. They're standing in the back, and in walks one guy who's a regular in this youth group and sees him and goes, "Oh, I don't have time. My girlfriend's over there. I got to go sit with my girlfriend." Okay, so he goes and sits with his girlfriend, and they kind of flirt and do too much PDA for a youth room. Mr. Lewis, we'll get him. But then another person walks in and is like, "Hey, what's up, man? Good to see you." Walks off and goes and hangs out with his friends. Then another person comes in and says, "Hey, what's up? What's your name?" Finds out his name, finds out what school he goes to, asks him if he has anybody to sit by. No, I don't. Asks him to sit with him. Talks to him, after service and invites him to the next thing. And then I would say, now which one showed compassion and love to that person? The third one showed compassion and love. By the way, that's what we expect of anyone that's a member here. But we would show compassion. That's the story. It's the story of the Good Samaritan. If you've never heard it, it's in something that Jesus told. And just another example. But he taught in stories. And he shared things in stories so that we could understand them better. I want to end with one more story that he told. It has authority. It's a picture, it's a story, it's a graphical thing, and it's also extremely practical, okay? And we're going to actually look at it on here. Because Jesus didn't just come to die, he came so that you can live. And not just so you can live in eternity, but so that you can live now and have a good life now. So let's take a look. It's this story that many of you have heard before, okay? He says, "Therefore, anyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on a rock. Now, none of you have built a house before, I don't think, okay? Maybe helped. But most of you have probably not built one from scratch. Maybe you have. But you can all imagine a house built on a foundation, yes? A rock, okay? Here. This is the biggest rock I could get for this. Okay, so you can all imagine a house built on a rock. Okay. It's sturdy. It's solid, okay? And so he says, a wise man builds it on a rock. The rain came and steams rose and wind blew against and beat against the house. Yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. Now, some of you are afraid of storms, okay? I know, anybody afraid of them? Who loves storms? Okay, yeah, it's like nap time. Okay. I hate it when I need to get up and it's raining. I'm like, oh my gosh, the rain's amazing. Okay, here's why I'm never afraid in a storm. Because I'm in a house that is built on a foundation and I know it's not going anywhere, okay? But then he says this, but everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like the foolish man who built his house on the sand. Now, we can all probably imagine what a house would be like built on this, okay? You could probably build one when it's all dry and all good. But this is what happens. The rain came down and the streams rose and the winds blew and beat against that house and it fell in a great crash. So this is what he says. And again, he tells it as a story. He gives us this image because everybody can picture a house and it raining and it being fine. And you can imagine this house and all of a sudden it just goes, right? Just crash, burn. And the reason I do what I do every week, the reason I study, the reason I love doing this is because I want to help young people, help you, not have a house that's built on something that is just going to crumble. And I have seen so many times where a young person, an adult, thinks everything is great because it's all built up and everything, and then just boom, the bottom falls out. And all they had to do was build it on something solid. And you can build your life on something solid because you've all experienced life. You know storms come. You know problems come. You know things happen. And if your life is built on what? Jesus' teachings. You stand firm. You make it through. Even though you made a mistake, even though you messed up, that doesn't stop that foundation. That's still there to hold you strong. And so that's why we do what we do here, so that you can learn to live life on a solid foundation that keeps you going. Now, some of you right now are maybe in a place in your life where you've already experienced this mess of, you were on the sand and everything just went. Well, the good news is Jesus still loves you, and he's still here to teach you, and he's still here to show you how to begin building on a different foundation. So if you've got an area of your life that's kind of messed up right now, we've got great news. We can pray and talk to the one who's our teacher and let him begin to rebuild on something new. So just the second here, we're going to stand and we're going to sing a song. And if you need prayer for anything in your life, there'll be people at the back of the room to pray with you for just a couple of minutes. And we're going to believe that he's going to teach you how to do it better, how to live your life better. Let's pray together. Father God, I just thank you for your son who teaches us how to live. I pray that we would have the courage to do what he said. In Jesus' name, amen.